Welcome to the channel. So in this video, this is an ongoing part of a series that I've been wearing the same clothes because I'm actually recording all of these in one video, but releasing them over a period of several weeks, where I am just sharing with you some of the information from the polls that I've put in my community posts to share kind of your thoughts about some different topics related to the hobby, and then sharing some of my own thoughts related to these same topics. So in this one, we're going to be discussing about what your thoughts are about the role that social media, quote unquote, influencers have had in the hobby. Let's get into this. The actual question I asked were, what are your thoughts about the role that social media influencers have played / are playing on the hobby? 16% of just 79 votes, but 16% said they have done a ton of damage. 20% said they aren't great, but sheep are the problem, really. 11% said they're there, but they don't really matter much to the hobby. 46% said they're not all the same, but many have helped spread knowledge, and 6% said they have been a big part of my enjoyment in the hobby. So that's interesting. I guess I'm not too surprised. I mean, I could see answers. I could see why somebody might respond in any of these ways, depending on a number of things, depending on which influencers, quote unquote, they're choosing to watch, and how you define an influencer. You know, if you're defining, just because I love a lot of YouTube channels that are about sports cards, but I wouldn't define them as influencers. I wouldn't define my channel as an influencer channel. I define mine as like a conversational channel or something. I wouldn't put myself in that category. But I guess that's probably true with most content creators. They wouldn't put themselves there. Some try to. There's some that actually want to be able to influence things, and that's more of like an influencer. And I think the ones who are actually seeking to influence things, that's the one where I think there's been more damage in the hobby, or people who end up getting such a big voice that they do influence things in negative ways without even trying, without meaning to, and that has had some influence. But also, you know, I don't think they've done a ton of damage to the hobby, even the ones who have done that, just because I think people have critical thinking. If people are I've talked about this in a video. If people are following what an influencer is saying, it's not necessarily that, you know, they shouldn't be in a position to be led astray so easily. You know, people have capacities in their own minds to make determination and to make consideration for things. So I don't think it's on the influencer as much as it's on, like, are we, you know, developing ourselves enough to be able to not be influenced like that, you know, so directly. So I'm less concerned about the influence. I've talked about, I'm less concerned. I'm not so worried about people pumping and dumping, for example, because I feel like in order for that to work, people have to be thoughtless in the way they engage with the hobby. And I don't think there's a whole lot of us that are doing that. There's plenty, and maybe there were during the spike, but I'm just not so worried about that anymore. And then also, like it says, the third one here, they don't really matter that much to the hobby. 11% said that, but I also agree with that statement in some ways. I mean, they're there, and I enjoy the spaces. I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy the community of it. But at the same time, you know, it's just a little thing. It's you know, you can tell the number of collectors, sports card collectors in the world is a huge number. The number of people who are following YouTube channels and Instagram pages is actually very small. You know, in the hobby, when you think of a large YouTube channel, you think of, you know, I don't know, the Sports Card Dad, you think of Sports Card Radio. These are some of the larger ones. You know, Sports Card Investor, of course, he's probably the largest, and Pac-Man and some of the breakers and stuff, they're very large. But of the people who are just kind of talking about sports cards, you know, Sports Card Dad, Sports Card Radio, these are some of the largest with like 15K. In most kind of niches within YouTube, a 15K channel would not be like considered one of the largest. But in sports cards, it is. So I think that speaks a lot to the fact that actually the sports card content creators are an extremely small part of the hobby. And I think that gets blown out of proportion by a lot of people who are watching the content regularly. They think of it as this big thing because they're watching it regularly. But to most sports card people, the conversations that are happening in the sports card space for YouTube is actually most people don't know that this is going on, that these conversations are going on around the YouTube sphere. And if you're in it, you think it's such a big thing. If you're not in it, it's actually a really small thing. So I think it's blown out of proportion sometimes. And then 46% said they're not all the same, but many have helped to spread knowledge. So I'm glad to hear that 46% have said this. Again, I'm guessing that the people who are saying this are probably thinking of the word of influencer, not just the people who have pushed certain narratives, but the people who are just kind of engaging in conversations. I'm maybe like this channel, maybe like a number of other channels that are kind of, down to earth kind of channels. And this one, if I had to choose one of these, this is probably the one I would choose. I feel like they have helped us. There are different spaces, but they have helped to spread knowledge. Some of them have spread false knowledge, but I also think it's opened up conversations and opened up some awareness here and there about different topics and different things, which I think is a good thing. And even for the last one, only 6% of people say they've been a big part of my enjoyment in the hobby. But I would put myself there too. I mean, I know I can't choose all of these, and neither could you when you said this, but I actually really enjoy them, even ones that I disagree with. And there are plenty. When I go in, I'll watch the whole range, from Sports Card Investor to Sports Card Radio, and everybody across the whole gamut of sports card channels. There's tons that I watch. And I enjoy them a lot. Even so, though there's some that rub me the wrong way. There's some that bother me at times. I still enjoy it, and I feel like that's one of the things. Sometimes in the sports card space, we get a little bit too like want to jump on things if people are saying things that we disagree with, or too quick to jump on it. I enjoy them all, and I can see that there might be something going on under the nefarious here and there, and I keep an eye out. I'm not watching things blindly, but I'm watching things with my mind on and enjoying them 99% of the time. So I do think it's an enjoyable part of the hobby for me. It's the community part, and sometimes community is flawed, and sometimes community is great, and that's the same with content creators. Sometimes the content that I'm intaking is wonderful, and sometimes it's very flawed, but I'm still enjoying it for what it is, and that's kind of my approach to it, I think. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts about this, let us know in the comments below. Peace.